Good afternoon. My name is Rhonda Covera. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Visual Workplace Visual Management series of webinars. As I mentioned, today we're going to go through and talk about do-it-yourself visual management, talk about some of the components of visual management. We're going to give you some tips and some ideas for creating more effective visuals in your facility. Just a couple of things that I want to run through. I'm here with Mark Thompson. He's going to be driving things on the back end.
Hello, everyone.
And just real quick, I'm going to have Mark just explain to you how we're going to navigate questions, and we'll get rolling.
Yeah, on the right-hand side or at the top of the screen, depending on how you're viewing today's webinar, you'll notice a menu of options there. One of those is the question section as well as the chat section. Feel free to ask the questions in either of those. I'll be monitoring both spots. And we will address them at the end of the presentation.
Okay, perfect. And just one other thing to note, today's webinar is probably going to run about 40 minutes, and then we'll do some questions. We also, we will make this presentation available, so probably on Monday you'll receive an email with a link to a landing page. On that landing page, you'll be able to download the actual PowerPoint presentation. So if you want to learn more about this or share this with your team, you're welcome to use this and incorporate anything that we talk about today into some of your training material if you'd like. You'll also be able to listen to an audio recording of the webinar. Again, if you want to share with others on your team, it's a great tool. But we'll just get everything squared away today, and we'll handle questions at the end. And again, if there's something that you're thinking about, just send Mark a message through the chat function, and we'll capture everything at the tail end. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming. If this is your first time attending one of our webinars, just wanted to give you a brief overview. So this webinar series consists of 6 different webinars. Today we're going to be talking about do-it-yourself visual management. The next webinar will be next month. We try to run them the first Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern. And next month we're going to be talking about smart floors. I think I told you, Mark, we were going to do tool control.
You did. Smart floors it is. I will make that change.
Yep. Sorry about that. Got my schedule messed up. But again, we're going to run this next month. So Mark will have that webinar up on our website that you can register, and then we'll send out a couple reminders, and you're welcome to pass that on to others in your network or anyone on your team. But that kind of gives you an overview of what the webinar series is all about. We also, if you're again new to our webinars, just a brief background about Visual Workplace. We've been helping companies for over 20 years with visual communications, supporting 5S, safety awareness. Today, we're going to be talking about one of our main products, which is our mobile in-house sign shop. And again, that is where we lead into that do-it-yourself. We also do, for those that don't have the resources to make signage in their own facilities, we offer those services and products for you as well. And then we've got some other do-it-yourself floor tapes and other visual management products that you are able to utilize as well. But that just gives you a brief overview about us. We are going to be talking about our mobile in-house sign shop. And in today's webinar, we're going to start briefly with an overview of what visual management is, and just to give you a little bit of background there. Next, we're going to talk about some tips for effective visual controls. And again, those are things that hopefully the takeaways that you'll be able to incorporate into your own visual management systems. And then we're going to talk about tools to transform your workplace, primarily the mobile in-house sign shop. So we'll get started. First, we want to dive into what is visual management. And just before we get into that, over the past few years, there's been a shift, and visual management as a method of continuous improvement or a tool used for continuous improvement has gained a lot of recognition. Many of you may be working on 5S methodologies for organizing your workplace, and for years people thought visual management and 5S were kind of the same thing, but they're very, very different, and that's what I kind of want to break down for you here today. First and foremost, Visual Workplace helps us to identify normal and abnormal situations, where 5S is really something that just helps to create discipline and keep our workplaces organized. And, you know, we want to be able to, at a glance, determine that there's a problem and be able to react to that situation. It also helps us direct behavior and create that discipline by eliminating missing information. You think about all the times you ask a question, where is this, how do I do it, which way, all the different things that happen in a day. Visual management really works towards eliminating that information, that missing information. It also helps us to reduce injuries. We always want to be working in a safe work environment, and we need reminders and information to help us support safe work habits. So again, visual management can have a great impact in that regard. And finally, we talk about utilizing performance indicators to help us reveal opportunities for improvement. It helps us, we have standards established, and really what we want to do is start to measure our performance and find opportunities for improvement. And so that just kind of gives you just a broad view of visual management, and you can kind of see how it may differ from the 5S methodology for organizing your workplace. Now I want to talk just briefly on why visual management can be so effective and why it's so important. Over 80% of what we learn is visual. Think about students in schools, universities, workplaces, onboarding new employees. That's really where a lot of the importance of visual information comes, because we're always learning new things. We process information that's visual much faster, and it helps us to improve learning dramatically by implementing visual communication. And so again, it's an important part of our daily lives. We look at the way we navigate in our personal lives through airports and highways and grocery stores, and there's visual information to tell us what we need to know without hopefully asking questions. And so that's really the basis for utilizing visual management in our workplaces. One of the other things that we're going to provide you that I don't have a lot of time to get into today, but we have an assessment tool, and it's broken up into these 7 categories, and it really can be very effective in helping you create a baseline for implementing a visual management system if you don't have that currently. And again, it's a baseline. It helps to identify kind of gap analysis and can help really create that roadmap for implementation. And even if you already are using, visual management tools in your workplace, you still may find some opportunities where you could shore some things up. So what we're going to do, and really what I want to emphasize in some of the examples that I'm going to share with you today, is really about effective messaging. And here's an example of not so effective. You can see here, caution, sharp edges, and very tiny at the bottom is, oh, by the way, the bridge is out ahead. So again, I'm going to challenge you after this webinar, when you create visual communications and you're looking at ways to improve your visual management system, really spend time on your messages. And we have to make sure that, it's clean, concise, it communicates, it doesn't over-communicate, as I'm going to show you here. This was a funny picture that I came across. And really what I, want to balance, the statements about, constructing effective messages, you have to find a balance between too much and too little. And so again, that challenge is going to be yours, and you may want to get some opinions as you're, looking and developing some of your messages, but we really want to try and keep things very simple where possible. Next, I'm going to take you through some examples of visual control, some tips that you might be able to use in your facility, and thinking about our definition of visual management, trying to eliminate missing information, identifying normal and abnormal situations, making sure we're safe, and using KPIs effectively are all things that you're going to see in some of these examples as we step through here today. First one that I just want to mention, and this is one of those softer benefits of visual management, but ask yourself, can you navigate your facility like an airport? If you can't, and a lot of our businesses, we've had additions and things have changed, so sometimes it can be rather difficult. But I would look for opportunities to create a navigation system within your facility so it it allows new employees, customers, vendors to navigate without asking questions. Takes a little bit of time, but with the right tools, you can do this pretty inexpensively, and it's one of the things that you can definitely do with the sign shop if you've got something like that in your toolbox. Next example, I want to talk to you about work instructions. We use work instructions, a lot in our facilities, but what I want to suggest to you is to look for opportunities to put messages behind things so that when information is missing, there's a caution, we're directing somebody on what to do or not to do. So again, we just don't assume, oh, it's just not there, but something should be happening if we're missing our work instructions, and here's an example of that. We also have that in this next example as well, defining where things belong, and you can see in the fine print behind the work instruction, it says, do not process without an approved, controlled operator instruction. So there's ways to put messages behind things and to be subtle so that you can capture the attention and direct people on what they should or shouldn't do if information is missing. Next, I'm going to encourage you to look at opportunities. All of us have laminated PowerPoints that we use in our facilities for visual communications, for safety reminders, those type of things. I'm going to challenge you to get away from that. You lose credibility when you have something that is not professional and it looks rather homemade. So again, we've got some tools that we'll talk about later that can certainly help you get to that point. Next, I want to talk a little bit about training matrices. Now, this may not be possible for everyone in every situation, but where you can, I would encourage you to get your training matrices out in the open so that those operators or team members, they can see exactly where they're at with their training. And you'll be surprised at how active they will become in trying to make sure that they have been trained in all aspects that they're required to do. So again, any opportunity, get it out of an Excel spreadsheet, off a computer, and post it. It's going to be a little bit of work to maintain that, but you'll really get a very active participation with your team if we can display that and create some accountability. Here's a great example of color coding. I'm going to talk about that a couple times today, but this, again, we want to make sure that, especially this was done in a maintenance area, and they went this route because they had technicians that were grabbing the wrong colored hoses and using them in the wrong ways. So again, it was very problematic, and just a simple reminder and a work instruction with some color really can have a strong impact. Next, I want to talk to you about hanging signs in your facility. I've been in facilities where you'll have 25, 30-foot ceilings and you've got, information hung at the rafters and nobody can see them. So the rule of thumb that we like to share with everyone is that the height of your sign should be 1 inch for every foot off the floor that it's going to be hung. So for example, this sign is 24 inches tall. It should not be hung any higher than 24 feet off the ground, or you won't see it. And, all the work that you put into your messaging becomes mute because nobody pays attention to your visual communications. So again, it's a good rule of thumb. The width of it will be the width, because again, we don't want a squishy text or, really small text. We want to be able to read things from, standing, in your work areas. And again, it's designed to direct behavior. So leading into this next slide, I wanted to show you the meaning behind that sign that you just saw. We did a project with a Lazy Boy facility, and they had, as you see on the left, they had a non-conforming area in their facility, and things were brought there that needed repair or some types of inspection or something like that. And the plant manager was so frustrated because he'd walk by this area and it was always this full. And you could really never tell which department had which, were responsible for which items. So we created this flag system. And we had a color-coded flag system. And every time something was brought there, it was a flag was attached to it. So now all of a sudden the plant manager could see which departments were, repeat offenders or weren't taking care of things in a timely manner. And what they found, very interestingly, at months after they had put this in place, that area really never was that full because there was eyes on who owned what. It was taken care of in a very timely manner, and you can see the example on the right. So sometimes these visual management systems create benefit that you don't even anticipate. Next, we're going to look at, and again, this is something that, it may not be applicable in every area, but again, we talked about getting training matrices out in front of your operators. We want to do the same thing with work instructions. So for this particular company, they had them in a binder. They were having some quality issues. They, onboarding new employees. So they created these job boards, and it was part of their setup. So the information that was in a binder was now, put in a job board, which was then placed at the equipment for each setup. And again, help them increase their quality just by making a few changes in how they display their information with their operators. This is an example of two things that I want to talk about with these visuals. First, sometimes, you can see in this engineering sample area sign, they had engineers that weren't putting the correct labels and just dropping parts off in an area. So what they did is they put the labels that were required right on the sign. So it was a reminder of what to do when you were going to put something in that area. So again, I'm encouraging you to put reminders. If you're going to label what an area is, if there's something that you need someone to do, direct them by putting that information on the sign as well. And you can see that we've got two examples here of that. And what we did, just to make it stand out and be more effective, is we reversed the text. So again, you've got a contrast with the messaging, so your eyes like, oh, we look at all of the content and not just part of it. So definitely an opportunity for creating effective signs. Here we had, you see an example, we've got skids and gaylords stacked too high. There's no identification on where things go. Lots of unnecessary handling and searching. And so what they did is they hung some conduit. They created lanes, labeled the signs with the part numbers. So you can find things more quickly. But what the conduit did in hanging that across, it created a barrier which prevented material being stacked too high. So again, there was a secondary benefit to creating this visual. Not only do we know where the material is, but we know we're not going to stack it too high. Another example, just, silly stuff. You want people to do things, you sometimes need to put it in black and white in front of them. But you can do that with reminders and, again, contrasting information like you see here, because we reversed the text, and so we've got a more effective sign in directing behavior. We also have, we talked a little bit about color. Sometimes color coding your inventory might be a possibility for increasing efficient recall for wayfinding. These were magnets that were done, so we weren't using labels because we want to be able to move things around when material needs to move. So for this particular facility, we helped them create a color coding system for their inventory using magnets rather than the paper labels. This was a picture that I took in a facility that we were helping with a couple projects, and at first I wasn't sure what this meant. I've seen stoplights used in facilities, and there's always a different twist. But what I found out, this was not necessarily this wasn't being used as a traffic indicator, but it was more for their safety indicator. So if they had a near miss or a recordable injury, then the color of the stoplights change. So again, it's just a real simple way to communicate visually what the status is and what the measurement is in different ways. So you can get creative. It doesn't always have to be a sign, and here's a great example of that. Next, again, sometimes things don't always get put back where they need to go. I know that's the case for a lot of us, and so sometimes this is just an example of not only labeling the object, but then labeling the location. So you almost match the two together. And again, we're just trying to make sure that things get returned to their proper location. This next example, another example with color coding and a combination of flags. This was another project that we assisted with, and it was a finished goods area, and they were bagging products, and they were always running out of bags, and they'd shut down because the material handlers didn't have the right material at the right time. So we built this rack, and what we did is we used the red and green flag system so that if the material needed to be reordered and they were using their last roll, they could flip it over and turn it red. So as a material handler drove by, he would just look, and if he saw red, he's got the part number, he knows what to bring. On his next time around, he'd bring material to refill that. This really helped them with their downtime in their finished goods area. Again, something so simple where we are eliminating missing information, because what was missing here was information to the material handler that they needed to have some of the packaging replaced. So it worked very well for them. Many of you may be using floor graphics. We just wanted to throw out there, taping and striping 360 degrees around things sometimes can be time consuming. It's a preference for some companies to do it one way or another. But if you're looking for some alternatives, sometimes just using corners on the floor can be a very effective way to identify where things belong. Uses less material, there's less maintenance behind it, and it may be something that you can use, again, with color coding. Tool shadow boards, if you're not using them, they're a great way to eliminate tools that come up missing, reduce your costs. We do a whole webinar on tool control. And so I would definitely, if you're looking for ideas, take a peek at that. I should mention, we do on our website, in our webcast section, excuse me, we have all of our previous webinars. So if there's you don't want to wait until I do the next live one, you can listen to one of the older ones and get some of that information as well. But again, looking for, we're trying to we want to bring credibility to our visual management systems, and you can definitely do that with tool shadow boards and eliminate a lot of wasted motion in searching. In this next example, you've got, this was a way to put a name and a face to their certified first responders in a particular facility. So this was in a production area, and so at any given moment, if there was an accident or an injury on a particular shift, we knew exactly who to contact and who could help assist in navigating that situation. So again, it's not just necessarily about production and making those systems more visually effective, but you can do that with other types of systems in your facility as well. This is an example. Sometimes I see a lot of dry erase boards in facilities. What I wanted to suggest here is this particular Kanban system, or scheduling system, their Kanban system, they didn't need, it wasn't going to be dry erase. It was just, and they needed it to be magnetic. So we helped them get a magnetic material and save them the money because they were sourcing it and getting a combination of dry erase and magnet. And you can save a lot of money if you just need magnetic applications and using some of the steel sheet metal signs as an option. I always want to, like I said, I talk a lot about color coding, and what I want to encourage you to do, and if you need some help, we've got lots of resources here that could help you. But as you're implementing your visual management system, you really want to think about a color coding system. Again, that just makes things, if you're taping the floor, if you're sorting inventory, and just having it, keep it simple. I've seen some systems that are so complicated, it takes an act of Congress to try and figure it out. But here, again, if we've got some samples and some ideas that other companies have used that if you want to use as kind of a starting point, I'd be happy to share that. But before you get too far into things, if you haven't already, I would look at a color coding system. So when you're creating signage and you're taping the floors and organizing your workplace, you've got some consistency from department to department, and that will definitely have value for you. Next, we're going to talk about products to transform your workplace. So I'm going to take you through some of the benefits and talk to you a little bit about our mobile in-house sign shop. So the image you see here is the sign shop. We put it on a mobile cart. It comes with materials to make 64 signs, and so you've got a starting kit. And then you'll have your laptop software and sign making vinyl cutter. And we package this so that companies can make their own signs, because it's very expensive sometimes to outsource that. And if you've got the resources internally, you're gonna find that you're probably gonna save about 75% of the cost. And if you're working on a visual management system, lean principles, 5S, there's so many things that you can do with this. And we provide the supplies, the training, and you can do lots of things with your own sign shop. And what I mentioned before, in a lot of facilities, this is the type of signage that you see. And you have to give everybody credit because, at least we're trying to communicate and put visual communication throughout our facility. But having your own sign shop, you can certainly shore it up and make everything look very professional, and you don't have to spend a lot of money doing it. Here's a few things that you can use with the sign shop, or things that you can make. All of your safety signage you can do with the sign shop. We have online templates and clip art, so any safety images that you need, you can certainly download from our website and incorporate that into your signage. Floor graphics, floor decals, you can do also with this equipment. Tool shadow boards, the one that I showed you just previously, that was done with a sign shop. And basically what we're doing is we're tracing a tool and importing a bitmap into our sign making software. We trace it and we instantly have a peel and stick decal for your tools. But again, you look at your facility signage, work instructions, safety messages, you can do all of this with the sign shop. Again, it gives you an opportunity to save about 75% if you do it yourself. We'll give you the training. We do that online. And then we continue any tech support or any support that you need. So it's a great product if you have the resources. If you think it might be something that you want to take a peek at, if you don't already have one, we can do a web demo and we can take you and do a deeper dive and show you, give you a look at the software, and you can actually see one of our team members make a sign right in front of you. So again, lots of, we've tried to come up with 101 ways to use this thing because it's truly used in the sign industry, and we've tried to bring it to manufacturing because there's a huge need in visual communications and safety messages in that space. Here is, if you do want to see a video, when you download the presentation, this is a live link to a video on our website, so you can actually see how a sign is made from our website if you're interested in that. Again, a couple of different options for you to learn more about it. If you are interested in learning more about visual management, we've got a video on our website, a series of videos all related to lean manufacturing. They've done a really nice job in simplifying the information and making it easy to understand. So, if you're inspired and you want to really bring some information to your team, this would be a great video. And if you do, you can see a clip of the content on there so you can make sure that, it's something that's going to be applicable for your facility. And now I'm going to bring, again, just a quick reminder, this is the webinar series that we offer. Today we talked about do-it-yourself visual management with our sign shop and understanding the definition of visual management as compared to 5S and some of the other lean tools. Next one, we're going to be talking about smart floors, and we're going to talk about just information that you can, create that smart floor environment. Again, we hang a lot of signs, but there's a lot of things that we can do with our floors to help direct behavior, and we'll take you through some. A lot of what's really nice about this next webinar is we go through color coding. We spend a lot of time talking about OSHA and ANSI standards, and we look at, safety color coding, process color coding, and then, kind of tie that in with 5S. So if you're looking for some information, that might be a place to start. As I mentioned, you're going to get a link to a video landing page, and on there you'll be able to download the assessment tool. So if you want to take that through your facility and start to understand where some of your opportunities are, you're welcome to do that. If you look at it and you really feel like you'd like to change it up a bit, kind of, make it more applicable to your facility, shoot me an email back and I'll get you an Excel copy, which you can then just edit and change and do whatever you want to do. The one that's on our website is it's a PDF, but we'd be more than happy to share an Excel copy if you'd like to do that. So again, I actually got through things a little bit quicker than
you're kind of fine.
Talking fast today, I guess. So I'm going to check in with Mark, see if he's got any questions.
Yeah, we have a couple questions. One of them is, when placing floor corners, do you want to place them as close to the pallet, or should you give extra space between the corner and the pallet object?
I would give a little bit of space because, especially with pallets, I don't know about your facility, but we have so many different sizes, and so often they're mixed in with each other. So again, you just want to create some boundaries, and I would just leave a little bit of space around there. And what's nice about the corners, if you have your own sign shop, we sell the corners on our website, so you don't have to have a sign shop, but you can make those with your sign shop. But I would keep them in a cabinet, and if one starts to look shabby, you just only replace one. You don't have to, replace 360 degrees of tape around something. So that's one of the other benefits of using the floor symbols instead of tape.
Right. Another question is, what options do you have when it comes to directory signage, if any?
Directory signage. So we have a couple of different things. You saw in that slide, we've got I'm just losing the name. We've got a engineering drawing for building out of that 80/20, the aluminum extruded material. We've done it for a couple of companies, and they like to hang them at intersections, and they'll put those above the mirrored glass that you see when you're coming up to your intersections. But it gives you a four-sided opportunity to place your signage on there, and all you really do is you just Velcro it to the frame, and if something changes, you can make changes to it very easily. But that 80/20 extruded aluminum is really effective, and so we've got a couple of engineering drawings, and we could certainly quote that for somebody if they need it.
That's the last question.
That's it. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today and taking a few minutes out of your day. I know everybody's super busy, but sometimes it's just nice to, catch a breath, benchmark some ideas from other companies. If you need any help, we are always helping customers and coaching and projects. If it's not with the sign shop, or it's just, KPI boards or anything, tool shadow boards, we've got a lot of resources, and we would love to be able to help you if you need it. So next week, look for that email from our team next week with the landing page. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We'd love to help. Thank you so much, and have a great day.